Admiral Garrett Thorne stood on the bridge of the HSS Fenris Howl, the last flagship of Earth's once mighty space fleet. His weathered face, etched with lines of worry and determination, reflected in the viewport as he gazed at the blue-green orb of humanity's birthplace. Earth now a jewel in the crown of the Zarkai Empire. "Hard to believe it's been 5 years," muttered Commander Jasper Wolf, his second in command. The younger officer's cybernetic eye whirred softly as it focused on the planet below. Garrett nodded grimly. 5 years of running, hiding, and watching our people suffer under alien rule. But that ends today. The remnants of humanity's space navy, a ragtag fleet of outdated cruisers, retrofitted mining ships, and salvaged alien tech, hung in the shadows of Luna's far side. It was a pitiful force compared to the armada that had failed to defend Earth half a decade ago. But it was all they had left. Sir called out Lieutenant Zain Malik from the comm station, his dark eyes gleaming with a mix of excitement and fear. "All ships report ready. Operation Phoenix is a go." Garrett took a deep breath, feeling the weight of countless lives resting on his shoulders. "Patch me through to the fleet." As Zain worked his console, the other bridge officers turned to face their admiral. There was Major Finn O'Ahili, the Marine commander whose scarred face bore testament to 100 brutal battles. Dr. Elias Chen, the brilliant xenobiologist whose insights into Zarkai physiology had kept them alive this long. And finally, Chief Engineer Roderick Wrench Donovan, whose miracles with machines had somehow kept their patchwork fleet operational. Garrett delivered a stirring speech, reminding the fleet of what they were fighting for and the stakes of their mission. As the transmission cut off, Jasper turned to his admiral. "Stirring words, sir. Think they bought it?" Garrett's smile turned grim. "They better have. Because if this doesn't work, there won't be anyone left to write our eulogy." The plan was audacious, bordering on suicidal. Thanks to Dr. Chen's research, they had discovered a critical weakness in Zarkai biology, a specific frequency of electromagnetic radiation that disrupted their neural networks, rendering them temporarily paralyzed. The catch? Generating a pulse powerful enough to blanket the entire planet would require more energy than their entire fleet could produce, which is where Wrench's insane plan came in. "All right, ye crazy bastards," the chief engineer's thick Scottish brogue crackled over the comms. "Time to see if all that number crunching was worth a damn. Initiating solar collector deployment." From the holds of a dozen ships, massive arrays of reflective panels unfurled like the petals of some enormous metallic flower. Each one, precisely aligned to catch and focus the sun's rays, was a testament to human ingenuity and desperation in equal measure. "Solar collectors at 100% deployment," reported Lieutenant Malik. "Energy accumulation beginning now." Garrett watched the energy readings climb with agonizing slowness. They would only get one shot at this. If the Zarkai detected them before the pulse was ready. As if on cue, alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple contacts shouted Jasper. "Zarkai patrol fleet on an intercept course." "How the hell did they spot us?" Finn growled, already coordinating the marine detachments across the fleet. "Doctor." Chen's eyes widened in realization. "The collectors," he breathed. "All that reflected sunlight, we might as well have sent up a flare." Garrett's mind raced through their options. They needed at least 10 more minutes for a full charge. 10 minutes they didn't have. "Jasper, take half the fleet and run interference," he ordered. "Buy us as much time as you can. Finn, prep your Marines for immediate deployment. The second that pulse goes off, we're going planetside." As Jasper's task force peeled away to meet the oncoming Zarkai ships, Garrett felt a familiar knot of tension in his gut. He had sent good men and women to their deaths before, but it never got easier. The space between Earth and Luna erupted in a dazzling light show of plasma fire and nuclear detonations. Jasper's ships darted and weaved between the lumbering Zarkai cruisers, using Luna's gravity to slingshot around and strike from unexpected angles. "HSS Thunderchild, watch your 6," Jasper's voice crackled over the comms. The nimble corvette rolled hard to port, narrowly avoiding a plasma lance that would have cut it in two. Its retaliatory strike, a salvo of kinetic penetrators, shattered the offending Zarkai ship's bridge. But for every alien ship they managed to cripple, 2 more seemed to take its place. The Zarkai had numbers and firepower on their side, and they pressed their advantage mercilessly. Fenris Howl, "This is Stormbreaker," a desperate voice cut through the chaos. "We've lost engines and our hull's compromised. Requesting immediate evac." The transmission cut off in a burst of static as the Stormbreaker disappeared in a brilliant flash, taking its crew with it into oblivion. "Energy accumulation at 75%, Zane reported, his voice tight with stress. "Estimate 4 minutes to full charge." Garrett watched helplessly as another of their ships exploded in a brilliant flash. "They're not going to make it," he muttered. Sir Wrench's voice came over the comms, uncharacteristically hesitant. "I might have a way to speed things up, but you're not going to like it." "At this point, Chief, I'm open to anything." Wrench took a deep breath. "We can reroute power from life support and artificial gravity to the collectors. It'll boost our charge rate significantly." The implications hit Garrett like a physical blow. "That's suicide, Wrench. Even if we survive the pulse, we'll be sitting ducks for the Jarkai." I, the engineer, agreed soberly, "But it might be the only way to save the rest of the fleet. Your call, Admiral." Garrett closed his eyes, feeling the weight of command more heavily than ever before. When he opened them again, his resolve was iron. Do it. As Wrench worked his miracle, the Fenris Howl grew noticeably colder. Crew members fumbled with suddenly weightless tools and weapons, their breath frosting in the rapidly thinning air. "Energy accumulation at 95%, Zane gasped, his fingers clumsy on the controls. 2 minutes to full charge." On the tactical display, Garrett watched as Jasper's task force was slowly but surely overwhelmed. Ships winked out one by one, taking their crews with them into the void. Zarkai's ships breaking through, Finn shouted. "They'll be in range of the collectors in 30 seconds. This was it, Garrett realized, the moment that would decide the fate of humanity. "Wrench," he wheezed, fighting to stay conscious in the oxygen-starved bridge. "Fire the pulse." "But sir," the engineer protested, "we're only at 98% charge. If we fire now..." "It'll have to be enough," Garrett cut him off. "Do it. Now." For a breathless moment, nothing happened. Then, with a silent flash that outshone the sun itself, the accumulated energy lanced out from the solar collectors. It washed over the Earth in a wave of coruscating light, penetrating deep into the atmosphere and beyond. On the Fenris Howl's failing sensors, Garrett watched as Jarkai ships suddenly lost power, drifting aimlessly in space. But had it worked on the planet's surface? As if in answer, the comms crackled to life with 1,000 jubilant voices. All across Earth, humans were rising up, taking advantage of their oppressors' momentary weakness. It worked. Jasper's disbelieving voice came over the channel. Holy shit, it actually worked. Garrett allowed himself a moment of fierce joy before the harsh reality of their situation reasserted itself. "All ships, this is Admiral Thorne. Deploy ground forces immediately. We have a limited window before the Jarkai recover. Make every second count." As the remainder of their fleet streaked towards Earth's atmosphere, Garrett turned to his bridge crew. In the dimming emergency lights, their faces were pale but determined. "It's been an honor," he said simply. Finn grinned, hefting his pulse rifle. "See you planetside, sir." The Fenris Howl shuddered as it entered the atmosphere, its overtaxed systems struggling to maintain structural integrity. Through the viewport, Garrett could see other ships of the fleet, far too few following them down. They burst through the cloud cover over what had once been downtown Sydney, now a sprawling Jarkai hive complex. As they descended, Garrett saw scenes of chaos in the streets below. Humans, armed with whatever weapons they could scrounge, were taking on the still paralyzed alien occupiers. "Finn, you're up," Garrett ordered. "Secure that hive and..." His words were cut off as a massive explosion rocked the ship. Klaxons blared as the deck tilted sickeningly beneath their feet. Direct hit to the starboard engine. Wrench's voice was barely audible over the alarms. "We're losing altitude fast." Garrett gripped his command chair, watching the ground rush up to meet them. "All hands, brace for impact." The world dissolved into a cacophony of screaming metal and shattering glass. Garrett felt himself thrown from his chair, a moment of weightlessness before pain exploded through his body. When he regained consciousness, the bridge was a smoking ruin. Bodies lay strewn about, some moving weakly, others terrifyingly still. Through a gaping hole in the hull, Garrett could see the alien landscape of Earth's conquered surface. Status report, he croaked, struggling to his feet. His left arm hung uselessly at his side, and a warm trickle of blood obscured the vision in one eye. Admiral Zane appeared from behind a collapsed bulkhead, his uniform torn and bloody. "Thank God you're alive. We've lost main power and comms. No word from the rest of the fleet." Garrett nodded grimly. "What about our ground forces?" "Major O'Reilly led the surviving Marines out before we crashed," Zane reported. "They're engaging Zarkai forces to the north." A high-pitched whine filled the air, and Garrett's heart sank. He knew that sound all too well. Zarkai dropships. "Looks like our hosts have recovered from their nap. We need to move, now." As they stumbled out of the wreckage, Garrett was struck by the surreal sight of his homeworld turned alien. The iconic Sydney Opera House was now encased in a pulsating organic shell, its elegant lines perverted into something monstrous. A flash of movement caught his eye, and Garrett raised his sidearm just in time to gun down a Zarkai warrior emerging from the hive complex. More were coming, their insectoid bodies moving with unnatural speed and precision. "This way," Zane shouted, gesturing towards a half-collapsed building that might offer some cover. They sprinted across the debris-strewn street, energy bolts sizzling past their ears. As they dove behind a crumbling wall, Garrett heard the distinctive crack of human weapons fire. He risked a glance over their cover and saw a group of resistance fighters engaging the Zarkai from the opposite direction. "Zane, cover me," Garrett ordered. "I'm going to try and link up with those civilians." The lieutenant nodded, laying down suppressing fire as Garrett darted from cover to cover. He was halfway to the resistance position when a Zarkai warrior dropped from above, mandibles clicking in anticipation. Garrett's gun was up in an instant, muscle memory taking over as he double-tapped the alien center mass. But the Zarkai's armor absorbed the shots, and a vicious claw lashed out, sending Garrett sprawling. As the alien loomed over him, Garrett's hand closed around a jagged piece of rubble. With a roar of defiance, he drove the improvised weapon up under the Zarkai's armored plates. Ichor sprayed as the creature let out an unearthly shriek before collapsing. Panting heavily, Garrett staggered to his feet only to find himself surrounded by a group of wide-eyed humans, their weapons trained uncertainly on him. "It's all right," he said, holding up his hands. "I'm Admiral Garrett Thorne, Earth Defense Force. We're here to take back our home." A woman stepped forward, her face streaked with grime and determination. "Mara Xiang, Sydney Resistance. Gotta say, Admiral, your timing could have been better, but we're damn glad to see you all the same." As Garrett quickly brought Mara up to speed on the situation, more survivors from the Fenris Howl joined them, including a battered but grinning Zane. "So what's the plan now, sir?" the lieutenant asked. "Our ship's down, we're outnumbered, and we've lost contact with the rest of the fleet." Garrett looked around at the ragtag group of soldiers and civilians, all looking to him for leadership. In their eyes he saw fear, exhaustion, and pain, but also a flicker of something that had been missing for far too long. Hope. "Now," he said, his voice ringing with conviction, "we remind these alien bastards why they should never have messed with humanity. We take back our world one block at a time if we have to." As if in response to his words, the sky lit up with fresh explosions. Garrett looked up to see more human ships breaking through the atmosphere, their hulls blazing with re-entry fire. A fierce grin spread across his face. "Looks like the cavalry's arrived. What do you say we give them a proper welcome?" A ragged cheer went up from the assembled humans. As they prepared to move out, Garrett felt a surge of pride and determination. The road ahead would be long and bloody, but for the first time in 5 years the future held more than just survival. It held the promise of victory.